All right, guys, so we are going to talk about thesis statement. So you just watched the video on introduction paragraphs. Now you're going to watch one on the thesis statement and what exactly it is. So give me a second to pull up that PowerPoint. This one will take a little bit longer, not super long, but just a little bit in comparison. Okay. Oh, here we are. Okay. Okay, so thesis statement, tackling this guide. This is usually the piece that a lot of students struggle with. They get a little bit confused about it or worried about it. It's just kind of think of it like the claim sentence, but for your overarching essay, okay? So if you had to answer the prompt in one sentence, that would become your thesis, okay? So what is a thesis statement in general? So this is going to be the guiding statement for your essay. It should do 3 things in total. It should state your stance on a topic, it should unify your paper, and it should be a concrete idea that expresses your purpose and content that is going to be covered in your essay, okay? Now, from there's some things that you should be doing in this, and there's some things that you should not be doing. So you should be making an assertion or kind of like saying, this is what I believe, taking a stand on something. It should be very specific. It should explain why or how, and it should be arguable, okay? So if you say that his memoir is about this, then you should also say like how, okay? You should not simply just state a fact. It is not you making an announcement of your topic, so saying something like, this paper will be about, and it should also not be too broad, okay? So you shouldn't just say, this paper is all about faith, because there's more to it than that, right? I give some examples of weak and strong thesis statements. So these are some things you want to keep in mind or refer to when you're writing your own. A weak one is not making a claim at all. So this paper will be about a characteristic of a hero. Okay, great. That just sounds like you're going to list off a bunch of things or give a bunch of definitions, but you're going to do more than that. So you need to tell me more. Don't state things that are obviously true, like war leads to death and destruction. Okay, great, thank you. That's saying like the sky is blue. Okay, you could talk about that in one sentence. I don't need you to tell me about that for a whole paper. Okay. Don't restate conventional wisdom. In order to achieve a goal, one must work hard. Okay, great. Thank you for that. You need to give more like specific to whatever text you're working with, and make it very specific to what the focus of your paper is about, not some like philosophical idea. Okay. Make sure it's not too broad either, such as the economic situation is bad. Okay, why? Give me more. What specific piece of it? Okay. Again, it all comes down to you need to be specific. If you're not specific, your thesis is going to be weak. Okay. Some strong thesis statements are on the right-hand side of this. So it makes a definite claim or stance. So based on the characteristics of being trustworthy and being selfless, Beowulf can be considered a hero. So that narrows your topic of your essay down a lot. It tells me, first off, you're talking about the story Beowulf, okay, which you guys probably haven't heard of, but it's a story, okay? Then you're talking about the characteristics of this specific person, Beowulf. The fact that they are trustworthy and selfless makes them a hero. So you're going to talk to me about A, how are they trustworthy? And you're going to say how that makes them a hero. And B, how are they selfless? How does that make them a hero? Okay, so very specific. And then from there, another one discusses an issue that's debatable. So this is more for like research paper, argumentative writing than what you're going to be doing with this paper. It is smart for a student to attend community college before a 4-year because it acts as a scaffolding for workload. So it tells me your main stance is A, that they should go to college or go to a community college before going to 4-year, and the reason for that. So that explains that idea of like the why or how that I talked about on the last slide. That would be because blank. Again, is specific. So throughout the play, Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare makes the theme of being hateful can hurt more than just one person extremely clear, okay? So showing me you understand the theme, you understand the play, you understand the author, all that stuff. And then the last one can acknowledge a different viewpoint. So although some may say the main reason for students being tired is an early start time, the primary reason for this is the pressure to participate in extracurricular activities. So that will be more for research paper writing, which you're not doing right now. So I would focus, if you were trying to model your thesis off of 1 or 2 of these, I would pick the first one and the third one, okay? So the makes definite claim and stance and is specific. I would focus on mimicking those 2 for your thesis. Now, some false assumptions about a thesis statement. You cannot start writing until you have a concrete thesis statement. This is false, okay? Your thesis is gonna develop as your paper develops, okay? So changing your thesis as you're writing means you're actually aware of where your essay is headed. And that makes you a stronger writer and a better writer than somebody who's like at the end, like, oh no, I guess it'll just work. I don't want to change it. Or I don't know, it sounds like it works. You need to make sure you're actually aware of where you're going, okay? Another false assumption is that a thesis statement must have 3 talking points. So you're eventually going to move away from the 5-paragraph essay format. So this really no longer applies to you. You don't have to have a topic for every paragraph that you're writing about. So your thesis should include your main point and your reasoning for that point. It doesn't have to give a specific like 1, 2, and 3 reason, okay? So if you just say, oh, because Beowulf is honorable, it makes him a hero, great. And then you'll have like other things in your paper that discuss how he's honorable, okay? So for example, in the paper that you're writing about faith, Elizur's faith, how it evolves over the course of the memoir, you don't have to say it evolves in chapters 4 to 6, 7 to 9, 1 to 3. You don't have to say all that. You just say over the course of the memoir night, Elizur's faith evolves from being very strong to very weak. That's it. And then you fill in the blanks with your body paragraphs, okay? So some points to consider while you're actually writing. This first one is super important to me. Do not telegraph your thesis or include any self-narration. I hate self-narration. A good thesis should not need to state this paper will show. Your point should be apparent to the reader with how you're writing it, okay? If you find yourself saying this paper will show or I'm going to talk about this, just cross it out and start your sentence after that phrase, okay? If you haven't stated how or why, you need to do that. So a good thesis statement should answer one of these questions. So for example, the lifestyle of a teenager in the 1960s is very different than the lifestyles of those today. If I can ask why or how so, that means you weren't specific enough. So maybe once you write your first draft of your thesis statement, ask those questions. Can you ask how or why, or did you answer that in there, okay? So I revised one because of advances in technology. The lifestyle of modern American teenagers is very different from those in 1960s. So now I'm like, oh, okay, the technology makes it different. I can't ask the question why or how now because you already answered it. So it's perfect. Now, if we're talking about the or the essay that you're writing right now, if you say Elizur's faith evolves over the course of the memoir, I can ask how, right, or why. So you could then revise that to Elizur's, or because of the situations he encounters during the concentration camps, Elizur's faith evolves from strong to weak, okay, over the course of the memoir. So those are some ways that you can adjust it, answer those questions, how or why, and make it into one sentence. Use your thesis statement while you're writing. Obviously, you're writing this after you've written your body paragraphs, but think about it. You write your thesis and then go back through and read your paragraphs. Does it actually prove the thesis statement that you wrote? If you didn't, adjust that or adjust your paragraphs. You have those 2 options. So that is the thesis statement. I'm going to stop sharing this right now. So is your job today in class to write that introduction paragraph, okay? Use the video you just watched on your introduction paragraph overall. Use the thesis statement video to create as good of an introduction as you can. Next class, we'll be talking about what you wrote. If you want to show it to me, you totally can. While you're working in class today, you can totally show that to me as well, okay? So that is your introduction paragraph. Get to writing.